So now here is the related controversy. We announced this when he did it back in, was it the end of March, I think, where Trump issued an executive order saying, we are going to take a hard look at the Smithsonian, which is several different museums and several different buildings, and the museums in Washington, D.C., and we are going to cleanse them of their obsession with hatred for America. That doesn't mean we're getting rid of anything that speaks to some of the stains on our history, like the museums that were the pieces of the museums that talk about slavery or the civil rights movement and the conditions that led to it. That doesn't mean that at all. It's if you go into these museums, there is a general infection by DEI. And I can speak to this personally because I went with my family in April of 2023 and came back on the air and talked about it as soon as it happened. Like, what's going on? This was right around the time where they added the trigger warning. If you wanted to look at the National Archive documents, like our Declaration and our Constitution, you had to get a trigger warning because, you know, they're obviously in the Constitution, we didn't treat blacks as full citizens when we first were born, and that was rectified later. Anyway, so during that madness that the country was suffering, it infected our museums. And Trump issued this executive order, and they're now getting around to actually doing it, to going into the museums, taking a look at these exhibits and trying to clean them up. And there's going to be interviews by Trump administration officials with all the curators of these museums, and they don't like it, Stu. They don't like that he took over the Kennedy Center and tried to de-wokeify it. The awards that are now being given there, you cannot get if you're woke. Trump said that personally. And at the Smithsonian and the other museums, we are not going to let you DEI our history and re-examine every bit of it through your woke lens. It's just not going to happen. So there was an extraordinary exchange on CNN last night where Abby Phillip, who never misses a chance to bash the country's race relations and is part of the problem in creating bad ones, she jumped all over Jillian Michaels, who it's been fun to watch. I love Jillian. She's coming out of her like liberal bubble, and her journey is not yet complete, but she's over the past few years, she's really started to get it. Like, wait a minute, I think I've been really misled by my side, and she's getting red pilled like by the day. She's awesome. I love her. But so she's on CNN on that panel, and she tries to defend what Trump's doing at the Smithsonian, and she's noticed too what I was just saying. And here's how that went.
We're now literally reviewing parts of American history and parts of American culture to make sure it comports with dear leader and what the MAGA
organization Can we address some of those things that are in there? Because have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like, he's
not whitewashing slavery.
Oh.
So
he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first race to try to end slavery?
What are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. There's one called Change Your Game, has been an installation there. Is gender testing fair in sports? Does that, and then it goes on to talk about how it's complex to do gender testing in sports. It's not complex. It's basic science.
So
it's been completely captured.
First of all, I don't.
And it's totally partisan.
First of all, we don't have time to litigate all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument. And everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Good for her. Thoughts on it?
Yes, that was awesome. It's a complicated picture when it comes to trying to just blame slavery on one race. It's just not true. I mean, slavery has existed since the beginning of man, and it's a really terrible thing. We all recognize it's a real stain on our history, and it is something that we should cover. That's a really, really important thing that people understand about our country, largely because, number one, we were one of the very first to rip ourselves out of that whole situation. Thankfully, the
only country that's fought a war to end slavery.
Yeah, right. And that's something to be proud of. And when you do something that is a stain on your history, correcting that stain is something that's really, really important and also part of your history. Also part of your history is, for example, the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. There's a copy of it right across the parking lot from where I'm sitting at the Mercury One Museum, where they go deep into trying to end slavery before this nation even started. It was something that was a high priority of Thomas Jefferson, of people who, at the very beginning of our nation, looked to try to end it. There was some opposition. They wound up going in a situation to keep the original colonies together, and eventually with a real, by the way, line to end it as soon as possible, which they eventually did. I think you don't look at slavery and say, oh, well, we should justify it. It wasn't that bad. It was horrible. It's one of the worst things that people do to other people, and they continue to do it to other people all over the world right now. It's still occurring. This museum has become exactly what she was describing there. It becomes this bizarre sort of woke left-wing self-punishment where you go in there and just think about how bad you are, when in reality we are the greatest nation that's ever been. There's no apology for that. The same thing that happens with capitalism, where we sit here and we say, oh, well, there's this problem with capitalism and there's this problem. Of course there are problems with everything. We can sit here and look at the problems of capitalism and try to make it better, but we should also acknowledge it's ripped billions of people out of poverty around the world. It's one of the greatest things that humans have ever accomplished. It's happened within our lifetime, and nobody notices because we're complaining about, what statue is in some park in Alabama. None of this, it doesn't make any sense the way that we handle these things. And I think what we should do is look at them with perspective, recognize that we've made mistakes, try to use those as examples of things to avoid forever, and learn the lesson of those things. And Megyn, one of the central lessons of slavery is we shouldn't judge people by the color of their skin. And for the last, certainly since the George Floyd situation in prominence, the left has tried to recreate a situation in which that's the way we run our society. Everybody looks at each other and says, what skin color are you? Okay, now we can judge what you can do, what colleges you can get into, what jobs you can get. That was the sort of thing we were supposed to be running away from. They're trying to push us back. And I do think, at least since, 2023 or so, we've made great progress moving the opposite direction. But there is still a lot of work to do, as that clip shows.
No, it's amazing. We went down, as I said, and we went to a bunch of the museums. And what you get over and over again is okay, they lean in. They want to spend all the time on slavery and Jim Crow. There's an emphasis on the worst pieces of our past. It's like they get off on it. And then conversely, you see a huge celebration everywhere you go of women who did this, women who flew, women. It's that's okay. We get it. There were some women who did some great things, and that's awesome. I have nothing against women, but let's be honest. That's not the dominant story when we're talking about our country's history and flight. There are a couple who stood out. We get it. Amelia Earhart and some others. But that's not the story. But you wouldn't know that. You go down and you've always got to be told what black person did something, what woman did something, what gay person did something. It's can we just know can we have the bigger picture, please? Can we have the story, and maybe a corner is devoted to what some minority participated in or how they contributed, and try not to make the whole story about that because you feel the need to elevate or to center the conversation around some oppressed group. That's what the Smithsonian has done. And I really hope that Trump and his team take a hard look at it and do what they say they're going to do, because it's unnecessary and it's pandering and it feels cheap and false. So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.